7 moments when kindness didn't just help, it changed everything for someone. Act number 7. A simple meal passed across a table. In a small town, a young woman lost her job and her hope until a neighbor silently set a plate of hot food onto her doorstep. She didn't ask, she didn't announce, it just appeared. The reason this act mattered is that nourishment can be more than hunger quenched. It can be dignity restored. It can whisper, "You matter to someone." The neighbor didn't wait for thanks. They didn't expect repayment. They simply recognized that someone unknown to them needed a warm meal, and that one plate began a chain, because the young woman regained strength and eventually found work and then paid it forward in her own way. Why? It changed things forever, because it crossed the line from charity to connection. It didn't say, "I feel sorry for you." It said, "I see you." Act number 6. A handwritten letter of encouragement. A teenager facing relentless school bullying was convinced she was invisible then. One day she discovered a crisp envelope slipped into her locker. The handwriting was unfamiliar. The message simple. "You are stronger than you believe." The kindness lay not in grand gestures, but in the quiet courage of someone choosing to write. Their words resonated louder than any loud announcement, because they affirmed existence and worth. The teenager held that letter in dark nights and anxious mornings. It became a turning point. She began speaking up. She began helping others. She began believing she mattered. Why? It changed things forever. Because sometimes the most overlooked voices hear the loudest message when someone writes, "I believe in you." Act number 5. A shared umbrella in a storm. During a sudden downpour, a stranger offered her umbrella to a commuter drenched and late. They walked side by side through the rain. The inconvenience for the giver small, the relief for the receiver immense. That minute of solidarity created a memory for both. The commuter later stopped to thank the stranger and realized the world still held surprise compassion. That realization shifted her own behavior. She began opening doors, literal and metaphorical, for others. Why? It changed things forever. Because it turned a moment of chaos into a connection and reminded both people that we are not alone when someone cares. Act number 4. A mentor showing up when nobody else did. In a busy city, a young man drifting through temp jobs felt ignored until a seasoned professional invited him to coffee. The mentor listened. The mentor asked questions, not to gauge performance, but to understand a person. The young man found opportunity. The mentor found renewed purpose. They built a rapport. The young man learned skills and self-confidence. The mentor discovered that teaching is not just giving knowledge, it's opening possibility. Why? It changed things forever, because it smashed the barriers of invisibility. It told the young man, "You are worth investing in." Full 3. Act number 3. A surprise scholarship. From a former student, a teacher one day received an envelope from a former student who had graduated into success. The note said, "I never forgot your kindness, and here is a fund for someone else." Because of that teacher's belief, the student became something others believed in. The teacher was humbled. The future recipients were empowered, and a tiny seed of kindness had grown into a scholarship supporting dozens. The ripple spanned years. Why? It changed things forever. Because the kindness looped back and then spilled forward, multiplying impact to act number 2. A refugee family welcomed by neighbors. In a quiet suburban street, a newly arrived refugee family stood outside their home, unsure of language and culture. Then the neighbors brought over dishes, introductions, and invitations. The family felt welcomed, not just tolerated. The children enrolled in school, the parents found workshops, the community grew richer. The neighbors discovered stories and languages beyond theirs. They realized kindness builds community. Why? It changed things forever. Because when hospitality meets humanity, the result is belonging and transformation. Act number 1. a life-saving organ donor. At the top of the countdown, we have an anonymous donor who gave the gift of life by donating a kidney to a stranger. The recipient was given not just years added, but hope renewed. The donor didn't expect fame. They only knew a person out there needed them. They connected only via hospital paperwork, but the bond remains eternal. The recipient's children watch their parent live on, and the donor continues quietly in their own life. Why it changed things forever? Because in one single decision, someone answered the ultimate question of kindness. What would you do if you could save a life? As the final images fade and the quiet music swells, the storyteller reflects on what these moments truly mean. Each of these 7 acts may have begun as something small, almost invisible, like a ripple spreading across a still pond, but together they reveal something enormous about who we are and who we can become. Each plate of food shared, each umbrella offered, each word of belief given when someone doubted their worth, each open door, each donated gift of life, all of it becomes the fabric that holds us together as people. The woman who received a meal on her doorstep may never know the name of the person who cooked it, yet she carries that warmth inside her every time she sits down to eat. The teenager, who found courage in a simple letter, may still keep that folded note tucked into a drawer, ready to remind her that she is enough. The commuter, who once stood alone in a storm, may now offer her umbrella to another stranger, remembering how it felt to walk beside someone kind. The young man mentored into purpose now teaches others, passing forward the belief that one voice of encouragement can change direction. The teacher who once lifted up a struggling student now watches generations bloom, because one act of gratitude returned as a river of opportunity. The refugee family that once feared the silence of a new land now hosts the very neighbors who first welcomed them, turning an act of kindness into a lasting friendship. And somewhere, across a hospital corridor, a heartbeat continues because an anonymous donor decided that compassion matters more than recognition. These stories are not fairy tales. They are real, and they are happening around us every day. Sometimes unseen, sometimes uncelebrated, but always powerful, because kindness doesn't wait for applause. It doesn't need a camera or a stage. It lives quietly in moments when no one else is watching. And maybe that's the lesson these 7 acts are trying to tell us, that every person we pass might be fighting a silent battle, that every simple gesture, no matter how small, can become the turning point in someone else's life. We often think the world changes through grand movements or massive ideas, but sometimes it's changed by a neighbor with a meal, a mentor with time, or a stranger with an umbrella. Imagine if everyone watching this video chose one act of kindness today. Imagine millions of ripples crossing oceans, connecting people who might otherwise never meet. The truth is, we all have that power. Kindness isn't rare, it's just quiet, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be chosen again and again. And so as the video draws to its final frame, the voice fades into a soft call, not of obligation, but of invitation. To look around, to slow down, to listen for the moments that call for compassion. Because someone out there right now is waiting for a simple gesture that could change everything if this story moved you. Take a moment to let it settle. Inside, you then pass it on. Share it with someone who might need a reminder that good still exists, that humanity still has a heartbeat. If you believe in the ripple of kindness, help it grow by liking this video, subscribing for more true stories of hope, and leaving a comment about the act of kindness that touched your own life. And remember, kindness doesn't need wealth or fame. It only needs intention. It can start with a smile, a word, a plate, a letter, a hand reached out in the dark. You never know who is waiting on the other side of that moment. You might not change the world all at once, but you can change someone's world completely. Because in the end, the greatest legacy we leave behind isn't money or monuments. It's the small, quiet acts that remind others they were never alone. These 7 stories are proof of that truth, and as long as there are people willing to be kind, to see, to help, to care, there will always be light, even in the darkest corners. So go ahead. Be the next story. Be the next act of kindness that changes a life forever.